Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where today we have a great tech startup story for your listening pleasure. Because today's guest is BarBend's co-founder and editorial director, David Tao, who is a veteran of the health and fitness industry. And he has nearly a decade of experience building and running editorial teams, and also serves as a colour commentator for both national and international weightlifting competitions. But the topics we're going to be discussing today is not comparing who can bench press the most, because that's David, I can tell you that for nothing. Today, I want to cover how they created this small content site and took it on a journey to one that is now the official media partner of the USA Weightlifting and has gone on to raise $825,000 in seed funding. And also how the founder grew two very different online brands to more than 1 million online visitors a month each. And anyone that's got a website out there or is building a following or building a community will know how difficult that is. But if you've got a niche community or you're building a business around a particular niche, you should really find today's interview incredibly interesting. So much value and insights in here. So I invite you to skip leg day and spend it with me and David for a conversation about BarBend and their inspirational startup story and the growth that they're enjoying as a result. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure thing. Well, my name is David Tao, and I am one of the founders and the editorial director of BarBend.com. I'm also a partner in Jack Media. Jack Media is the company that operates BarBend and some other niche content websites. I spend most of my time on BarBend, that's BarBend, and it is a strength sports website, one of the largest in the world at this point, which is kind of fun to be able to say. And basically, we cover strength athletics, so that's things like weightlifting, powerlifting, CrossFit, strongman. We write news, we have opinion pieces that we publish from contributors around the globe. We write training advice, nutrition tips. So we publish all that on the website. We also have a very active video presence on YouTube and across social media platforms. And we have the BarBend podcast, which is a relatively new addition. So think of it as an integrated multimedia company for strength sports. And we're the official media partner of USA Weightlifting, which is the governing body for weightlifting in the United States. We also do a lot of work with CrossFit. We actually live streamed the CrossFit Games earlier this year on BarBend.com. And we have a really cool, dedicated team that is split between New York City and Austin, Texas. And we eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. So we love strength sports and we love writing about it, making videos about it, and working with some of the coolest athletes in that space.
Fantastic. And on this daily tech podcast, I do cover a lot of tech startup stories, but something else that fascinates me is the actual human story behind that too. And when I was researching you guys, well, first of all, what really stands out is about your story is that you've grown two very different online brands to more than 1 million online visitors each month. So can you just tell me a little bit more about those two very different brands and maybe set the scene for everyone listening?
Sure. Which brand beyond BarBend are you talking about specifically? Because I've been fortunate to work with a lot of brands over the years.
I think it was a BarBend and I've got a Jack's Media, of course, I think.
Yeah, Jack. So Jack Media is the company we own and operate four different brands. So BarBend is the one I spend most of my time on. It's actually probably our largest if you were to just talk about number of eyeballs on the content. It's probably our largest. We also run a few different other sites. We run sleepopolis.com, mattressclarity.com, and securitybaron.com. And the thing about them is they're all niche content websites, right? None of them are going toe to toe with BuzzFeed anytime soon, or CNN or anything like that. They're all made for niche audiences. So niche audiences could be an audience that's particularly passionate about one hobby or interest, like strength sports for BarBend, which is kind of a sub niche within the fitness industry, or It could be a niche audience when it comes to people looking for very specific content, very specific answers. I give the example of Sleepopolis. It's a place where people come for information about sleep products like mattresses, pillows, bed sheets. We test so many of those in-house. we have an awesome group of people who are putting all those to the test in person here. And in addition, we produce a lot of content on Sleepopolis about how to sleep better. So the latest in sleep research, sleep science, how everything from your diet to your daily schedule impacts your sleep and how to rest better. We have a whole sleep education vertical. So I kind of split niche audiences into two different groups. One is content that people are always passionate about because that's their main hobby. It's a group they identify with, like strength athletes. Or niche content can also be serving audiences at a particular point in their life when maybe they're coming across a problem. Could be making a mattress purchase, which is the biggest purchase a lot of people make in a given year or series of months. Or maybe they're trying to just sleep better and they're having a little trouble resting optimally, and they come to Sleepopolis for those answers. So when it boils down to it, they're very different subjects that we cover across the Jack Media portfolio of sites, but at the same time, it's niche content. You know why people are coming to your site because they're particularly passionate about or particularly curious about a type of content and a category of content. So the biggest and most important thing I like to say for niche content is you got to give people the answers up front. No one is going to come to your site just to kind of spend an afternoon browsing around. It's not Reddit. They come to your site wanting a particular answer or wanting a particular type of content, and you got to give it to them quickly or else they're not going to have a great experience. So I think the big difference between niche content and a lot of other more generalist content is you got to give people the goods up front.
Absolutely. And what do you think the secret sauce is to building successful brands that generate so much traffic? Do you think it is all about that, just creating that niche or niching down?
Well, I think something to keep in mind, and this is something I have to remind myself of a lot, is in today's internet environment, there is no one place where you're going to get all of your traffic. It's just not that way. Now, we do a lot of content that does well organically over time and increases in rankings over time. But our traffic sources get more and more diversified as the companies mature. So we get traffic from Google. We get traffic from Google News. We get an increasing amount of traffic from YouTube, which is basically the same thing as Google, owned by Google. We get traffic from social platforms like Facebook and Twitter. We get some traffic from Instagram. There are a lot of different ways for people to find your websites and to find your content these days. Relying on just one of those platforms is really risky. It happened in the news industry a few years ago when Facebook changed their algorithm, and a lot of sites really struggled. Some went out of business because they were really doubling down on Facebook and getting 90% of their traffic or something like that from Facebook, and they ran into a lot of issues when something on that platform changed. So for us, I think the secret sauce, it's not so much a secret. It's just that we really want to produce a range of content that appeals to people across different platforms. That's the best way or we think that's the best way to build brands that last over time and aren't beholden to an algorithm or the whims of one particular platform. Podcasting is something that's pretty new for us, but a really, really cool way to meet people on platforms where they're already interacting with content and searching for really good content they can become passionate about and dive deep on. So when it comes to building successful brands these days, you have to diversify. You can't rely on that single traffic source. And really, that means you have to produce different types of content. You can't just do written content. At least we don't think we can do just written content. We have to produce great video content, great audio content in the podcast realm, great visual content that's optimized for social platforms. Diversification is the name of the game.
And one question I've got to ask you, because you're talking to me from New York at the moment. Mm-hmm. Do you guys say niche rather than niche? Are you just being polite because you're chatting to an English podcaster there?
I'll probably say it two different ways in the same conversation. I am not a linguist, so I am phonetically I'm not the end all be all or claim that I know that. I like niche. Yeah. I think I say niche more often than I say niche. But if I'm feeling fancy, maybe I'll say I don't know. It really depends. You're bringing out the best and worst in me, maybe.
Well, it's funny you should say that because I prefer niche, but then again, you guys have got a fantastic saying, the riches are in the niches, which I really do like, but you can't say the riches are in the niches. It just don't work.
It's niche is tough. It's tough to rhyme. The peach is in the niche. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Niche. I'm sure there is a correct way, and I've probably been. I'll say it wrong at least half the time. Let's put it that way.
So you've helped grow BarBend from a small content site to one that is now the official media partner of the USA Weightlifting and has raised $825,000 in seed funding. So can you tell me a little bit about that journey and also what you learned along the way?
Yeah, certainly. So BarBend, when it was myself and my two co-founders, we started the company in early 2016. Well, let's say March or April of 2016. So approaching Q2 of 2016. And we thought that there was a need for strength sports content and a place where people could go to find really trustworthy strength sports content. It's something I really wanted and something I always searched for but couldn't find. And so BarBend started off as a blog. We started putting up news articles and some opinion pieces from contributors that we already knew in the strength sports world. It started growing a little faster than we anticipated, which was great, and it's a good problem to have. But we soon realized that in order to scale it, we needed to grow our team. And at the time, BarBend really wasn't making money. So we did raise a round of seed funding in order to start hiring full-time folks and growing our team with really talented, passionate writers, videographers, designers. And so the seed funding was really just to grow our team so we could build BarBend to a brand that could start creating revenue, that could diversify in the types of content it was producing. And then about a year into our existence, maybe a little less than a year into our existence, we started gaining some significant traction, especially in the United States. And we entered into talks with USA Weightlifting, and we've been their official media partner since early 2017. And we do have that partnership officially through the Tokyo Olympics next year. I anticipate we will probably be renewing that partnership after the Tokyo Olympics, but it is a 4-year partnership, and that's because Olympic committees like USA Weightlifting, they tend to do everything in 4-year cycles based around the Olympics. So that was a big moment of trust because they had to trust that we were a brand they could partner with. They had to trust that we had trustworthy content. They had to trust that we would, we were still pretty new. We were less than a year old at the time. They had to trust we'd be around for the full Olympic cycle. And at the same time, we had to trust that they would help us build credibility, that they would be willing partners to help us create great content. And they've been fantastic. And I will say, USA Weightlifting, at the core, what they do is they support athletes and coaches and training programs to grow the sport of weightlifting. They do produce a lot of content, but at the end of the day, that's always got to be secondary for how they're supporting their athletes, their coaches, members of USA Weightlifting. So, it was trust both ways. We had to trust that they would support our content generation efforts, and they truly have, and they had to trust that we were legit and a business that was going to survive. And so far, so good. So that's one of the partnerships I'm truly proud of in my career, and one that just gives me so much pleasure because they're fantastic people. We actually worked with them last week to send one of our staff editors down to Lima, Peru. There was an International Weightlifting Federation Grand Prix, which serves as an Olympic qualifying event for a lot of athletes. So with USA Weightlifting, we were able to send down one of our correspondents to cover an event in Peru, which is the first time we've ever sent a correspondent to South America to cover a strength sports event. So that was very, very cool.
And for anyone listening that would like to follow in your footsteps and pursue creating content in their own niche, can you expand maybe on or any lessons that you learned on how to scale and grow your site to one that partners with big major household names? Because that's an incredible journey, isn't it? From creating a little bit of content and right the way through to those big partnerships. But it is time consuming. It does involve a lot of consistency and turning up each day, doesn't it?
It does. And one thing that partners really value is authenticity. Yeah. So I'm passionate about strength sports. I love lifting weights. I've been active in the strength sports community for a number of years. So have many of the team members we have at BarBend. Not all of them. Some of them came from more journalism backgrounds and then found a love for strength sports while here. But a lot of us have that background in strength sports. And most importantly, all of us have a passion for strength sports. And I'd say that across our sites, our team members and managers have passions or develop passions for these niches and for the content in these categories. And people in niches, if you want to be fancy about it and rhyme it, they can sense that. They can sense when you are knowledgeable about and passionate about and excited about the content you're producing. And that trickles all the way up to brand partnerships, right? USA Weightlifting wouldn't want to partner with us, at least I don't think, if we weren't truly passionate about weightlifting and if we didn't truly enjoy weightlifting. Same goes for all of our sites. So finding people who are already passionate about your niche or your niche or willing to become passionate or can grow that passion and that knowledge base, that does more than your articles ever could, and at least in a sense, because it really conveys that, hey, we are the experts. We're going to stay the experts. We're going to really push the boundaries with what's possible and what quality really means in these categories.
And for brands that are serious about boosting their marketing efforts, not only in 2019, but well into 2020, which is just a couple of months away now, do you think niche content is so important? Or should I say, why do you think niche content is so important?
I think niche content is important for these brands because they're diversifying. Just like we're diversifying our content, they're diversifying their product offerings, and they also need to diversify their marketing. So it's a 1-2 punch, right? They know there is no just one marketing channel that works for everyone anymore. This isn't, there isn't just TV and newspaper advertising. There's so many ways to advertise and try and grab market share or earn market share. So big companies, small companies, mid-sized companies, they know that they need to reach people on more platforms than ever before. And that means partnering with mainstream media outlets, the New York Timeses of the world, the BuzzFeeds of the world. It also means partnering with smaller, more niche categories or more niche content producers like us. At the same time, people are pickier than ever, especially when it comes to strength sports, especially when it comes to how people are resting. These things where people are really making it a part of their lives, they're pickier than ever. They have more access to more products than ever before, thanks to the internet. So creating very specific products targeted at very specific niches and for very particular uses is very important for even mega brands. It's, it might not be what 50% of their consumers want, but if it's what 5% of their consumers want, that's still going to move the dial for a multi-billion-dollar brand. Now, a lot of the brands we work with are not multi-billion-dollar brands, but that's just to give you an idea. Nike produces weightlifting shoes, right? And so they really want to target the weightlifting crowd. Now, they probably don't sell as many weightlifting shoes as basketball shoes, but it's still important to them and still something they really do want to focus on and make sure they're achieving market share in.
And for people listening that are inspired by your journey, are there any other actionable tips that you would offer?
Look around and see what your competitors are doing. But also, if you're in niche content, don't be afraid to look beyond your particular category, beyond your particular niche, because if you are in a niche and if you are in a smaller niche and maybe there aren't as many content producers or media companies, you might need to look elsewhere for inspiration as to what types of content to produce. Before BarBend existed, there weren't a lot of sites writing on CrossFit and weightlifting and powerlifting and strongman. So when we look for inspiration for how to produce great content, we couldn't necessarily just look in the strength athletic space because there weren't a lot of analogs for us. We didn't have a lot of competitors, as you might generally think of in the media space. So don't be afraid to look beyond your little slice of the world for inspiration, for types of content to produce, and ways to reach people on new platforms.
Fantastic advice. So I've got to ask though, what has been the most challenging task that you've had in managing these businesses throughout your journey? Is there anything that stands out?
I will say that someone told me years ago, business is easy, people are hard. I don't think that's necessarily true. And we've got fantastic team members across all of our brands, but finding those great team members, it takes a lot of effort. It took a lot of effort. We're in the hiring process now for one of our sites, and we have some fantastic candidates in the pipeline. And sometimes they're difficult to find. We operate out of New York and we operate out of Austin, Texas, and they are two, cities where there are a lot of really talented, creative folks. But it can still be difficult to find talent for any media company, particular niche brands, because you want to find people who are willing to dive in and give you their time and give you their full-time effort when it comes to these niches. At the same time, a lot of people might be hesitant to do that because, they're not super passionate about these niches, or they don't want to spend their entire, work life working on just strength sports or writing on just strength sports. Maybe someone's passionate about writing on sports, using BarBend as an example, but they want to write on football and basketball and golf and tennis and every sport under the sun. Well, BarBend is not the place to do that. ESPN is the place to do that, or CBS Sports is the place to do that. Those are just some random examples. So it can be difficult to recruit folks because when they come on, they're going to be doing very specific things and working in a very narrow band of content. Now, that gets me really excited. It gets a lot of our team members really excited. But I do think it adds another layer of difficulty when it comes to recruiting really awesome talent.
And of course, none of us are able to achieve success without some help along the way. So another question I'd love to ask you, is there a particular person that you're grateful towards that's actually helped get you where you are today? Is there anyone that springs to mind when you look back?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm fortunate enough to learn from them each and every day. My two business partners, Kenny and Joe, who were actually the founders of Jack Media, and I became a partner a little later on, and it was actually just the three of us at the company for a while before BarBend was even off the ground. I learned from them each and every day. They have different backgrounds than I have when it comes to everything from where they're from, where they went to school, what they did before Jack Media and before BarBend, and we work on different things. We have different skill sets, and I am so grateful to have business partners that I can learn from each and every day. And I think that is because we have different skill sets and we focus on different things within the company and the companies. And that really lets us be better. It lets us specialize a little bit and really own certain parts of this business and its operations. So I'm incredibly thankful to them. And I also realize that when you ask this question, a lot of people won't be in the fortunate position to reference their business partners as people who inspire them and who they learn from. But I'm super, super fortunate to have business partners who I trust and who I really do think allow me to be better and get better each and every day.
Beautiful. And something else I always try and do with every guest that come on here, I always try and do a little bit of research and find a little something interesting about them. Now, straight away, having spoken to you for the last 25 minutes, is you've got a great podcasting voice. So I was unsurprised to find that you've got your own podcast. But I also believe you're a voiceover actor and can be heard in animated films, independent shorts, music videos, commercials, and so much more. So can you expand on that? It seems like you're moonlighting here.
It is a little bit of a hobby that sometimes borders on a second career, and it really is up and down. So, I haven't been doing as much of that in the past 2 months as I was kind of earlier this year. But yeah, something I'm passionate about is voice work. And I am I call myself an amateur professional because I do professional gigs and engagements in voiceover, but it's not my day job. So it's I joke that I'm an amateur professional amateur. Whichever way you want. But yeah, that is something that I got into a few years ago, and it was doing some ad copy and reading, things for radio spots or digital ads. I did an animated movie a few years ago. That was kind of a friend of a friend, got me that gig, and it really did spark an interest in doing more voiceover work. I do have a background working in radio. I worked worked as a reporter for an NPR affiliate way back when. That was actually my first job, really, and that. I've always had an interest in radio, and radio is really more in the podcasting space now. More people, I think, are listening to podcasts on a daily basis than they are the radio, say on their drive to work. And the line between the two is getting somewhat blurry. But yeah, so that is what I do, and again, it will depend on how busy things are at work at Jack Media and BarBend. But I do have a home recording setup, and I will sometimes record, audition for, and then record everything from advertisements for sandwiches to characters in animated films. I'm actually really lucky this coming weekend, this Saturday, the Saturday after we're recording this, I'm going to a small industry premiere for an animated film that I recorded voice for last year. So the life cycle of some of these projects is very long, and you will record something and you might not actually hear your voice in its full context for a year or more until after you've recorded it. So that's always the best part, is you record something, you kind of forget about it, and then now it's like 18 months later, I get to go see this animated character that has my voice for the first time. I'm really excited about that.
Fantastic. And for anyone listening that would like to find out more information about your podcast, all the content you're creating, the great work you're doing, where's the best way they can find you online and equally contact you if they've got any additional questions?
Well, I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share that. If you want to follow along with BarBend, it's easy. BarBend.com, BarBend.com. You can find all of our content there, links to our YouTube videos, and as well as we have a tab with all of our podcasts. It's just the BarBend podcast. You can search for that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, you name it. And then if you want to follow along with me personally, I'm at D_Tao. That's D_TAO on Instagram. And I'm on Twitter, D_Tao on Twitter. And then I'm at David Thomas Tao on Instagram. So if you want to find out more about BarBend, just visit BarBend.com. That's the best place to start. And then those are my personal handles on Twitter and Instagram.
Excellent. Well, we all consume content differently, and I think it all depends on our location, the device that we've got in our hand. But after listening to you today, it quickly becomes clear to me, at least, that just how important it is to niche down and provide valuable audio, video, and written content right across the board. And you're really excelling at that. And it's something that I think we both try and do every day. And it's so many valuable lessons in that for people listening. So a big thank you for coming on and sharing your story with me today, David.
Thank you so much for having me, Neil. It's been an absolute pleasure.
What a great story. And I loved hearing more about how to scale and grow your site to one that partners with many household names. And why niche, or niche for my US listeners, why niche content is key to all marketing efforts, not just here in 2019, but 2020 and beyond. Please, I want you to email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes. Keep those thoughts coming in, because I'd love to hear your take on these interviews that we're having every single day. Maybe we can all teach each other a thing or two on that commute to work, walking our dog, doing the household chores, or even cooking your tea. In fact, also let me know where you listen to this show and what you're doing as you're listening to these daily interviews. I'd love to find out a little bit more and see the world through your eyes. But I'm rambling now, so all that's left for me to say is a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.